Okay, I hope you're here all for the UROP briefing, and I'm sure there'll be people coming late. Because we do this briefing every semester, we do record it, so it's on live stream now. So if you have friends that couldn't make it, you can let them know. The links are up there for both the slides, the Google slide deck, as well as a YouTube video. So do make sure that you are watching this with respect to this current semester, which is for second sem of Europe, starting for bidding now. That is starting for people in August 2020. Okay, there's about 15 different slide decks that are variations of this because I do this briefing every semester, every time we record it, and every time we change the highlights to be a different color. So this year it's green, this semester. Okay, so my name is Min. I am an assistant dean in the undergraduate office. I happen to teach the machine learning class at SOC, one of the two teachers to do this. And I supervise and oversee the UROP program for SOC. Terrence, who's sitting next door to me, also supervises and oversees the FYP program. Okay, these are two important pathways that we have for research for undergraduate students. So before we go to that, I wanted to share with you something in particular. So I don't know how many of you have seen this page. Can I just get a show of hands? Anyone has read this page before? A couple of you? Great. So I encourage you to do that. It's actually fairly easy to find. So I'll just show you where it is. It's over here, programs, undergraduate, UG, project. Okay, or you can just go to it from, programs and undergraduate. Okay, and then look for the part that's about project modules. So it's down here, okay? And basically what this tells you is about the pathways that we have for undergraduates to do research, okay? So most of you are probably in year 2, if I'm not mistaken. Any year 3 students? No? Okay, so year 2 students are primarily still taking their foundation courses. For example, software engineering or things of this sort. Okay, but we expect at this point in time that you're also interested in doing research. And so some of you may be in the Turing program. If you're not, that's fine. It's a very small program. But many of us will actually take Europe if you're interested in research. And it starts actually right now. Okay. So if you are interested in Europe, you can contact your supervisors or attendant supervisors now, interview with them, and then sign up for Europe, and then you can start immediately, even though the semester for Sem 1 of next year hasn't started yet. Okay, so you would start during this time period on the summer, and then finish your Europe in year 3. And then when you go to year 4, you would do your FYP. So you have a chance to do two semesters of research with us, okay? And there are several different ways that you do it. Also in computer science, we have this CS 2309 research methodologies class, which is good if you're doing research or Europe. It's compulsory for Turing students if you're in the Turing program. Okay, so have a look at this. There's a lot of information that we've put here about how you can structure your career, especially if you're looking or interested in doing graduate school. So any of you interested in graduate studies? Potentially, okay. Yeah, I mean, most students won't have decided at this point. So you can look at that. There's also the Undergraduate Research Day, or soccer. It was canceled because of COVID, yeah, it would have happened in the early part of the semester. It was scheduled for, I think, late February. Okay, and there's a fairly helpful FAQ. I think it's fairly helpful because I wrote it, but I'm a bit biased, of course. Okay, so you can take a look at this and then think about all of these parts. Okay, so anyways, this is the UROP briefing, so I want to go over what's going on there. Okay. So the objective of UROP is really, really simple. It's to give you a chance to do research individually with a professor or their team of researchers. And it's basically a chance for you to see whether a research career is right for you. It's basically a chance for you to go through the typical scientific lifetime cycle, okay, of doing scientific research, which is usually you have to decide what the problem is. Okay, that actually is really difficult. I mean, typically you don't have a specific problem that you want to solve until you codify it. So for example, homework assignments, you have a problem already set for you. But for many researchers, we don't have a specific problem that we want to solve. Okay, so finding the actual problem is actually difficult to do in many cases. So we want you to experience that. Then after you have a problem statement, you want to find out what people have done in that area so that you're familiar with the state of the art in the area. Many times you get ideas from attending other research seminars in similar or even fairly different areas to cross-fertilize ideas. Okay, and then you propose a solution, you implement that solution, and you evaluate it. Okay, sometimes you don't need the evaluation, like for example, in theory, a proof is sufficient. There's no reason to go into experimentation. Okay, and very, very crucially, I'll say is that you need to be able to document what you do. Okay, so documenting is essential for UROP and FYP. So if you have seniors in FYP, you can tell them, because basically that's how we judge whether you did a good job. Okay, you can do all the work in the world, but if you haven't documented it and presented it correctly, you won't get a good grade. So this becomes the most paramount thing that you need to do during UROP is reverse engineer a good grade for UROP, an A plus. We do that by documenting and communicating your findings effectively. Okay, so that's sort of like a prerequisite. You know, without good communication, nothing else can happen. All right, but of course you have to do all of the rest of the things in this pipeline. Okay. All right. So UROP has changed substantially. So if you've talked to seniors, the program has changed. Okay, so if they've told you procedural matters, please disregard it. Okay, it's because this year we have changed the pipeline to deal with the huge influx of students into SOC over the last 3 years or so. That flux is not getting any smaller. So what we've done is we've canonicalized all the project modules, FYP and UROP notably, okay, these two project modules, as well as other minor, smaller ones, all into the same pipeline, okay? So it means that we follow the same procedures, okay? So if you are thinking of doing a UROP and you heard of a single semester UROP where you just get to try out research for 1 semester, that is no longer an option for UROP. Okay, it's still possible in SOC. That comes under the guise of this module, the CP 3106 independent project that is graded solely by your supervisor. Okay, and it's only for 1 semester. If you want to do UROP, you have to do it for 2 semesters, for 8 MCs, and it has to be over a consecutive 2 semesters. Okay, meaning Sem 1 of next year, Sem 2 of next year. Okay, if you're thinking of going for SCP, NOC like that, unfortunately, UROP is no longer an option. Okay, you can still do research, and for those types of pathways, you can talk to me about it. Generally, what we'll recommend you to do is take this CP 3106 for Sem 1, go for your SCP, NOC, okay, and then come back and do FYP. Okay, FYP is a full year. Okay, so if you're keen on doing UROP and you're keen to follow UROP with FYP, then this is where your interests lie. Okay, so there are some prerequisites. They're very simple. Basically, we want to ensure that as an SOC student, you're not unduly compromised or overloaded with your module work. Okay, so that's the requirement, is for you to do 60 MCs so that we know you're comfortably embedded in SOC already. Sometimes we have year 1 students who are keen to do UROP. We also entertain those so we can break this requirement if needed. Okay, and we need to know that you have a fairly good CAP. So the problem with year 1 students, sometimes, as you know, we have SU modules for first year without any problems. But then if your CAP is artificially high, but we see on the back of the transcript, your unofficial grades are fairly low, and we might tell you maybe you should take another semester before going through UROP, okay? Because the most problem that we have are students challenge themselves too much. They're a little bit overconfident and over optimistic, And then when they come to Europe, they're like, oh boy, this is much harder than I thought because it's not well structured. There are no deadlines. It's really up to my own initiative. And because classes are more important, there are specific deadlines. I'm not paying attention to my Europe. And then halfway through Europe, then we hear from them, can we drop Europe now? And then it's to nobody's advantage. Okay, this is why we dissuade potential Europe students in year one from applying to the program unless we think they can really do it. We have some students that can easily multitask 36 MCs of modules in one semester. Okay, some of you may be like that. Okay, so basically those requirements are there, right, to make sure that you are doing fairly well with your studies, both in terms of the amount of coursework and your CAP. Okay, and the approval is just from me. So I will look over your transcript, your unofficial transcript, look at the supervisor who's supervising you and your ability to handle your course load, and then we just generally approve it. There's almost been no cases where we reject anyone. Sometimes we'll ask the supervisor, are you really sure the student is qualified, because we're worried about their coursework. Okay, but otherwise everything is smooth from there. So you don't have to really worry about this FERT requirement. Any questions so far? Okay, so just interrupt me if you have any questions, okay? So now if you look at both FYP and Europe, as I said, it is standardized, okay? So your seniors in year 4 or year 3 now, year 4 next year, will be doing the same thing as you, okay? Basically, there's a CA semester, which is your Sem 1, and your final semester or final assessment, which is Sem 2, okay? In your CA, you have to do 2 things. You have to submit an interim report to your supervisor and main evaluator. That's at week 12, so close to the end of the semester. We just want to know that you've done some literature review, you have a good idea of where you're going, your supervisor is pretty happy, and you have to present both to your supervisor as well as an informal presentation to your evaluator, okay? Your evaluator will stay with you through both semesters. And they are usually a domain expert, somebody else in the school who knows the type of area that you will be working with, okay? Then in the second semester, you will have your final assessment. There'll be a final thesis that you have to turn in, a dissertation. That will be due week 12, so the penultimate week of studies, you'll have to finish your FYP, your Europe thesis, and then you will do a presentation on it during reading week of Sem 2. Okay, so it's usually the Monday or Tuesday of reading week, okay, in which you have to meet your examiner, the main examiner who will evaluate you in Sem 1. And you give them an official presentation in a room like here. Some students do it in the TRs, okay? You present for up to 40 minutes about what you've done over the entire year. You convince them that you've done a great job. Your supervisor optionally can attend, but it's not required for them to do that. And then we'll give you a grade. Okay. They'll also give you feedback. That feedback will be sent to you and your supervisor, and you are welcome to act on it. It's generally advised that you should, and then submit a final copy of that report, your dissertation, with any corrections that you'd like to make by Monday of exam week. Okay, after exam week. Okay, any questions about this? So you do get to give some feedback about how you think your advisor or your examiner did to guide you on your project. Okay. So the evaluation follows the same structure again. So there's 30% of your grade that's determined in the first semester. Okay. 15% due to each of your the 2 people helping you out. So even though you spend most of your time with your supervisor, ultimately they're only responsible for half of your grade. Okay. The examiner is the other half. This is why I say it is essential that you spend a lot of time thinking about how to communicate well with your examiners. I tell my own UROP students, please contact your examiner on a regular basis, not even just during the evaluation times. So if you can get any feedback from them about what you can do better, then by all means do that, right? Because otherwise you won't be satisfying what they expect, okay? So it breaks down into these rubrics over here. So I'll just go over that with you, right? In the first semester, we're looking to make sure you understand the problem, okay? And for example, have come up with a problem statement if it's already not dictated to you. some technical achievement. So in the first semester, usually you might not be implementing anything, but just studying the related work, the state of the art. So it might be the literature review that you would present mostly for the first semester. Okay. Being able to manage your resources properly. Sometimes your supervisor may assign you other people within their research group, for example, a fellow FYP student or another UROP student, or sometimes a doctoral student to help supervise you. Okay, and then of course you have to make a presentation. Even though this is an informal presentation where you can just go to your examiner's office, just make an appointment to see them wherever they are in COM 1 or COM 2, you usually have to come up with a small slide deck and present to them, for 15 to 20 minutes to get a feel for what types of things they're interested in seeing in your work. Okay. So just to make it clear, your main evaluator doesn't have to usually evaluate your report and discussion, because usually they're the ones helping you with it anyways. Okay, so the people who are actually grading your report and your presentation will be your evaluator, not your supervisor. Okay, so that's 30% of your grade in the first semester. You'll get an IP grade after the first semester, because it's the same grade for both semesters that you receive at the end of the whole year. Okay, so this IP grade for the first semester would change to a letter grade after you finish the second semester. The second semester, again, split halfway between both people. Okay, and again, this is what we're looking for. More about your report, effort and initiative, and then less on the understanding of the problem, which was 30% before. A little bit more on the extension of knowledge. So we want you to push the state of the art. That's actually very easy to do once you have a good idea of what the literature is like. And then again, the bulk of the grade is on the actual work that you do, the methodology, implementation, and analysis. Okay. So like it says here, at the end of the first semester, your supervisor and your evaluator may convene a short meeting on their own to decide whether you should continue with UROP. Generally, that's never been a problem. There are only very few cases of which students need to drop out or change for some reason that we have to invoke some other type of workflow to handle that. Okay. So for this semester, UROP applications open today. Okay. You can submit the UROP application via the online form here. So you can, this link, hyperlink is working. So again, you can go to the slide deck itself. It goes to a Microsoft Office form. Okay, you can fill that out once. What you need to do is decide which project you want to take. Get your supervisor's approval. They will be notified to submit an approval. Okay, and after you do that, you'll need to notify Jia Ying, who sits in the UG office right over there. Drop her an email to confirm the assignment, okay? And then you're done, all right? So that will come to my office. I'll get a printout of your transcript again, and copies of any emails that you sent, and a correspondence with your prospective supervisor, and then we'll tie it in the knot, and then you'll have it as a module pre-allocated to you next semester, okay? So we hope that you can do this application process over the same time period as FYP allocation, which will be closed in April, mid-April. Okay, so close to exam time. Any questions? No? All good? Okay, so you might be wondering, how do I find those projects anyways? So the easiest way is to go to the project admin site. So how many of you have seen this website before? Okay, 2 of you, okay, good. So I'll just show you what it looks like. Okay, so let's see, I think you guys can read this, but not very well, so let me make it a little bigger. Okay, so this is the current list of projects that are offered to people. And you can search, although the faceting system is not very good, I don't think you would probably search by supervisor, but you might be able to search by keyword. Like if you wanted an AI type of project, you can select that, and you can see some of the people who supervised AI projects. If you wanted something in like computer networks, you could take a look at the people who are supervising there. Okay. So UROP is an optional project that mostly students that are really interested in research try in year 2, year 3. So actually we have larger number of students that do FYP, okay? So, oops, let me go back there. So another place that you should check is on the FYP listings. So if you go to the FYP listings, you'll see some of the same, but many more projects. Like I think there are 80 projects or so for UROP, but you can see here there's over 300, I think almost 300, yeah, 275 projects for FYP. Okay, now the difference between FYP and UROP is a little bit different, and I'll tell you a little bit about it later. But the important part is finding a particular advisor, okay, and then talking with them, and then sharing your research interests with them, and then perhaps jointly you guys can come up with a project that's interesting to you. Okay, now I know many of you are, you don't have a specific specialization or a very clear topic area in mind. And that's why we have projects already proposed. Those are things that your supervisors are interested in doing, but certainly you're not restricted to that. Okay, so your goal in using the project admin site is to identify people who you might want to work for. So for example, here, some of you may know Zhao Jin, who runs the orbital program. So he has a couple things on orbital. Okay, so this is not so much of a research project, but it's something that FYP students can do. Okay. There are other people like Vaibhav who works on clinical healthcare. So there's things of this sort. So if you're looking for, if you find projects like ones of his interesting, note his name, okay, his Unix ID, Vaibhav, and then you can search for him, right, on US SOC, okay, and then probably you'll find him, okay, and then check through his biography, check that some of the publications seem interesting to you, okay, and then contact him, okay. The whole idea is in trying to find people is to identify faculty who are interesting to you, okay, and then for you to reach out to them and then tell them that you might be interested in a specific project or you're interested in the area, and then with that area to come up with a particular research project that might be suitable to you. Okay. Now, professors are busy. Not everyone will email back. I think our faculty are pretty good about that, but of course there are lots of challenges. So make sure you don't pin your hopes on just one faculty. Try to email at least 5 to 10 different faculty. Hold an audience if you can with at least 3 to 5 of them, and then from there try to select one. Okay, it does take a lot of work to find a suitable project. Okay, but it's for your own good, because this way you get a good match. Okay, you wouldn't buy a phone without shopping, right? So why would you sign up for a 12MC whole year module without doing enough due diligence? Okay, do it because it's important. Okay, so you can also propose your own project. So there is a UROP progress project proposal form that you can write. Okay, so there's a link there. So you can write your own project and then take it, email it to prospective supervisors, have a discussion with them and say, is this something you want to advise or not? How could I make it useful to your group to also supervise? And then, if there's a good match, then that's great. You'll find that on FYP sites, there are some people who are interested in projects that are proposed by others. In this case, I don't think there are any right now, but you can search to find out who is interested in proposed projects from students, okay? And you can approach those people for advising as well, okay? The bottom line, as I said here, is you have to take the initiative, okay? Because the faculty are generally, they have to run your courses, they have to run research projects, they have to do project grants, okay? They're too busy to solicit students, okay? actually by writing project proposals, that's a lot of work already, okay? So you have to find the best project and mentor that suits your interests and advising style, okay? Every PI, every professor is different. So if you talk to multiple professors, you'll find that there are differences in their style and their interaction, okay? So like I shared with you, these are some of the UROP projects that are listed here. We have projects for almost every area of IS, CS, business analytics, information security, you name it, all the CS specialty areas we have professors proposing projects for. Okay, so after this briefing is over, if you have specific interests that you'd like to know more about, and I can try to help you identify certain faculty members that you might want to approach. Okay, that's the other half of this briefing. Okay. So, you know, I mentioned that there are 2 project modules that are typical for students to take. UROP is the first one. It's, again, mostly for very committed students who are already doing very well in the school. Okay, because typically when you're a UROP student in year 3, you're still handling quite a lot of coursework. We see most UROP students handling 4 to 5 or 6 modules per semester, inclusive of UROP, of course. Okay, so UROP students, as I said here, we have a requirement for CAP. Essentially in year 2, you have less background, but as I will tell you, when you're doing research, your coursework doesn't matter a whole lot. Okay, typically when I induct students into my research group, I require only about 2 weeks of background work for them to get the knowledge that they need. So for example, if you're concerned, oh, I don't think I'm qualified for this AI or machine learning or advanced theory project. Okay, well, if you talk to the supervisors and say, yeah, you know, those 3,000, 4,000 level courses, you can study a specific week or 2 in that module, and that will be specific enough. Because, you know, our undergraduate modules are breadth related, okay? They cover everything for an entire area. So how could they dive deep enough for one particular area? Okay, our faculty members are like that. We can teach a specific module, but we tend to do research in the specific area of interest in that particular module, okay? So that's why background's not so important, okay? What we need from you is mostly your acumen in terms of your way of committing time and energy and intellect to doing your research, okay? And your focus, okay? So the other thing that's very important is that UROP students are expected to work the full year, okay? That means this coming summer, May through July, you will be expected by your UROP supervisor to actually be working at least part-time on your research, okay? It's unlike FYP. FYP, we don't mandate that, but for UROP, we do, okay? So you will have to do that, and it's a really good idea to do well in your UROP because then it can be extended into an FYP. Okay, FYPs, as I've written here, they can be research oriented, but usually they can be also other types of projects. Like I highlighted just now, there was a project about Orbital. That's a web development platform. It has nothing to do with research, okay? UROP, of course, the R stands for research, so we wouldn't allow you to do that for UROP, okay? Any questions? So UROP is worth less, it's worth 8 MCs, but actually my experience between UROP and FYP students is almost the same. We don't see that much difference. UROP students tend to have to do more different modules. They tend to perform better, but because they have less time, but they have the summer to do it, their output is almost equivalent to an FYP. I wouldn't say there's a plus or minus on either side, okay? What we do see is that UROP students, many times they like an area of research, they come back to do it again for their FYP. This is why there are many supervisors in SOC more keen to induct UROP students, because if you like working with them, you know, he or her, then you would come back and work even more. Okay, the whole point of UROP is to seed you with the scientific process, but also hopefully eventually get you a publication. Okay, publications are a really useful thing to have, especially if you're planning graduate school applications. Okay, now as of last year and this year, both FYP and UROPs are accorded a budget. Okay, it's on a first come, first serve basis where we have a certain amount of money that the supervisors can apply for on your behalf. So when you talk to your supervisor, you could ask them, okay, I understand there's a UROP or FYP budget. Are you planning to utilize any of that for my project? Okay, how it works is that you or your supervisor would spend monies for certain resources like, I don't know, computing resources, hardware, especially if it's an IoT type of project, software or stationery, okay? And then your advisor would either reimburse you if you paid for it or get it directly reimbursed from the department, okay? So that's pretty much the entire UROP briefing. Okay, I'll just end with a couple notes here about how other students in the past have done well in the UROP. So this was a project about 5 years ago, supervised by Brian Lowe, who is the other teacher of the machine learning class. He had a student work on Gaussian processing, which is Gaussian processes, which is a topic under advanced machine learning. And he did very well. He won the outstanding undergraduate researcher prize, in which we always have a few from SOC every year. And he wrote this quote. Basically, it's to apply much of the coursework that you have. Sometimes you have the coursework, you get tested on it, and you're like wondering, what the heck is it good for, right? So now you get the chance to apply it to something that matters, okay? More importantly, through working with brilliant mentors, I was able to cultivate a passion for academic research. Okay, he's since gone on to postgraduate study. Okay, and another student from Indonesia, Mr. Harta Wijaya, had done another work with Huitao, who is our natural language processing professor. He was working on statistical machine translation, which is the precursor of the deep learning machine translation systems that you might find in Google Translate or Alibaba technologies, Baidu technologies. Okay, and so he's also written this quote to say it gives him a chance to do meaningful experience for work in this project. Okay. Okay, now there are a couple small fine prints that you should know about. Once you're signed on for UROP, it'll actually end up in your work plan, okay, as a scheduled class, okay? Don't worry about it. The class is just a placeholder, okay? So if it conflicts with another module, we can change it for you, okay? Now, some people ask about this too, right? Is UROP going to be graded on the report that we actually turn in that is going to be examined by our examiner, or is it graded on the final report after you've made all the edits that's suggested? Okay, so your report is actually graded on the parts that you turn in. Okay, even though the examiner says you should fix this X, Y, and Z, even if you don't, your grade is already assured. Okay, so you're not obligated to make those changes, although they're highly suggested that you do. Okay, it's archival work. You want to 20 years from now, if your children or your relatives go into SOC, they can access your report. So it's good to do a good job of that. Okay, you don't have to provide a hard copy of your thesis. And if you have friends or you yourself are exchange student, you can participate in UROP too, although most students are only here for one semester, so we advise them to take CP 3106. Okay, so that's it for this briefing. So again, my name is Min. I part of the undergraduate office, and Jia Ying, who sits in the undergraduate office, will assist you. Okay. So do you guys have any questions? I can take your questions or concerns about supervisors. If not, what I'll do is I'll just go around the room and ask a little bit about what your interests are.